Welcome back to the All We Do Is Talk podcast. We are here for the NBA debut. Welcome back, basketball fans. We are all very, very excited. How you doing, Isaiah?
Good. This should be interesting. We got baseball on, Monday Night Football, fantasy draft, but we're talking NBA Western Conference standings predictions. So you want to go first? You want me to go first? We're going to start with the guys the non-playoff teams. It's going to be five of them thanks to this new playoffs.
All right. You can go ahead first.
All right. I think it's pretty chalk here at the bottom. It's going to be a race for Mr. I'm still learning the name.
Wembanyama.
Yeah, it's a race for him. At the bottom of that race, I think the Utah Jazz have cleared it out, and they see the future in a Giannis Jokic type of international player who won't be dazzled by the bright lights of bigger cities in the hopes. Utah's clearly showing you they're taking it out. They're going to throw the Hail Mary to save their franchise and finally put themselves in contention for a championship in the future. And so to do that, they're going to go with the trust the process approach. Number 14, I've got a team that's done this before. I've got San Antonio. They traded off DeJounte Murray. They gave away their best player at a time when they were battling mediocre and being great. So they're tanking it out, hoping to get the next Tim Duncan level caliber player. At 13 and 14, I'll mix these teams together. I've got Houston at 13, OKC at 12. Two teams that are just full of young players that aren't going to win you games in the NBA. Houston's got a really bad roster outside of their young guys. They did extend Kevin Porter, even though the contract's not fully guaranteed today. And OKC doesn't even have – I think Josh Giddey could be we'll save it for later, but spoiler alert, most improved caliber player of the NBA. But I think him – and we still don't know if they might trade Shea. So I don't really know what we're doing in OKC. So I'll put him at 12. I'll put Houston at 13. At 11, unfortunately, I forgot – I penciled them in the play-in, but then I remember that Damian Lillard – is technically still on the Trailblazers. So I've got the Sacktown Kings continuing to not make the playoffs. I think Sabonis would be great for them. I don't like Fox as much, but I like the rookie they got. But I just don't know nobody knows what they're doing over there in Sacramento. That's why they haven't been to the playoffs longer than anybody else in the NBA. So that's my five that don't have any chance of the playoffs: Utah, San Antonio, Houston, OKC, Sac, and I'm pretty confident in it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go to we're chalk the exact same order, the exact same teams. It's
that, and this is not like it's so. It was actually pretty easy when I looked at it. I was like,
there's obvious tiers. There's obvious tiers of the teams. The teams that have no business making the playoffs aren't going to be in the playoffs. Like Sacramento and Portland, they might be close enough that you can swap those however you want to do it. But yeah, I gave Portland the edge to get into the play-in tournament over the Sacramento Queens.
Shot. So that leads me to my two playing teams. My Portland edges out Sacramento, in my opinion, off of Damian Lillard being healthy, Anthony Simons signing a new contract. They also got Nurkic to come back. So I think they want to get some revenge after CJ McCollum went to New Orleans and kind of show that he was a key piece in their run that they had there. Whatever they went to the Western Conference championship one time. But so my two playing teams are Portland, and then I have the second team in LA as of right now, the LA Lakers. I think if they stayed healthy, they could be great, but they probably won't be healthy. And then I think they will trade Russ, but we got to see. They got to do it. So this Lakers team where I see now, at best case, they get 70 games out of AD and LeBron, 60 good games out of more better than worse games out of Russell Westbrook. And they make it to the play-in. They still have no depth. They're probably the least deep team in the NBA. Hopefully they trade those two first-round picks so LeBron and AD aren't wasting away with Russell Westbrook. And yeah, Portland and LA, two teams that probably need to make trades to get to playoff status.
Yeah, you and I are definitely on the same page with Portland. LA will also be in my play-in tournament. They just won't be at the 10-9 range. At number 10, Portland Trailblazers. At number 9, I'm going to go with a surprise here. I don't like that Dallas Mavericks team. I don't like it. They lost Jalen Brunson. Guys are coming off of injuries because Porzingis isn't there anymore. They brought in Christian Wood. Apparently, he's going to be a sixth man
because he looks like he's that bad good player on bad team.
You're not built for playoff basketball. Yeah. So if Luka has to miss any stretch of time, which he's had to do over the last couple of years, they're going to go into the tank. Jalen Brunson is not there to save them. Spencer Dinwiddie deals with injury issues. I don't like what they have outside of Luka Doncic. I think they need another really good player on that team. Brunson was that for them last year. Porzingis obviously has been that for them. But without either of those two guys, it's just a Luka show, and I don't think that's going to be enough in the Western Conference. I'll put them as the other playing team with the Portland Trail Blazers at 9 and 10.
Yeah, I forgot the play-in doesn't include the bottom. It doesn't include 7 and 8. So I think we're kind of chalk here. At 8, I've got Dallas. I'm gonna have to see it if they are a top 4 seed. It means Luka was the MVP, and that's all I gotta say about that. Or maybe they make a trade, or maybe they go into the tanker for a year. So maybe see if they can get Luka's final buddy. That would be
Luka take a year off. We don't take a year off.
If Luka does get hurt, I can see them easily going hardcore tank, and the NBA setting that up. But then I also have New Orleans at 7. It's all about Zion Williamson's health. If he's returning to be MVP level caliber player, which he has shown, I mean, they could be better, but until then, I'm going to have to rock with them. I like CJ McCollum getting I don't like his new contract as much, but I like what they got there in New Orleans. They got a good coach. They've got the Jones kid who's a really good wing defender. B.I. was cooking Mr. Defensive Player of the Year, wing caliber player, and Mikal Bridges in the playoffs. So I like when New Orleans got Bill in there. So those are my playing teams: New Orleans, Dallas, LAL, Portland.
Yeah, we have the exact same 4 playing teams. We did not do this. We did not talk before. This is straight off the top. I have the Lakers at 8. Like you said about this team, the Lakers have the highest variance of any team in the NBA. Either they could be competing for a title, or they could be tanking and handing the New Orleans Pelicans the number 1 overall pick. Those are either the 2 ways they could go. If LeBron and AD are
healthy, as a Nets fan, trust me. As a Nets, you don't want it to go that way.
No one wants to see that. No one wants to see that. They're very motivated to win some basketball games this year. So I think they'll definitely be better than last year. But the Russell Westbrook thing still being up in the air, I can't trust LeBron and AD to play more than 55 games. They've only done it once in the 4 years they've been Lakers. So when those injuries hit, the worst depth team in the NBA will lose games. When those guys play, they'll win about 60%. You even that out, that equals an 8 seed. And at 7, New Orleans Pelicans, like them a lot. They have the most depth, arguably, besides the Golden State Warriors. They have 14 players who could play at an NBA level, but they are not good on the defensive end. Zion's not good on defense. Jonas isn't good on defense. Brandon Ingram isn't good on defense. CJ McCollum isn't good on defense. That's their 4 best players. So it's really just hoping Herb Jones develops a jump shot. Or
Zion's good on defense.
He's not. He was in college. He is not at the NBA level. He hasn't proven that.
He's never played with this coach, so we just don't even know if this coaching has impacted him yet. When last seen, he was being coached by a guy who all he did last year was announce games. But you're all right.
Yeah, so their inability, I don't think they'll be able to defend at a high enough level, and they don't have a true point guard that I think they can go get them quality shots on a every possession basis, which I think will hurt them over the course of the year. But they have as much as talent as anybody. Zion works his way back. Brandon Ingram's going to be really, really good. They should have multiple All-Stars. It's no shame. The West is going to be tough, but 7 seed, I think, is solid for them.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm making my pick.
I can go through my 6 through 1.
Yeah, you're fine. You mean 6 through 1? You're right.
All right, so I'll go ahead through my 6 through 1. At number 6, I have the Minnesota Timberwolves. Rudy Gobert trade obviously being massive. I think they'll need some time to integrate those guys into a team that was in the playoffs last year, especially with the way those 2 guys fit. Karl-Anthony Towns obviously had the really bad offseason health issues. He's still recovering from that. So it might be a slow start to the season for the Minnesota Timberwolves, but I expect them when they figure it out to get hot. Super athletic, size on the interior. This should be a really good basketball team with some playoff experience on the way. I expect them to make their way out of the play-in tournament. At number 5, I got the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, a little drop off from where they've been the last couple of years, but there's a lot of drama going on there. DeAndre Ayton still isn't talking to the head coach. Chris Paul's another year older. Jay Crowder doesn't want to be there anymore. It's just there's a lot of transition and
Cam Johnson didn't get a contract, so he'll be playing for one this year.
Yeah, there's just a lot of things going on in that franchise that makes it hard for me to think that they'll be able to maintain their consistency that they've had over the last couple of seasons. I think they'll still be a very, very good team, but I don't think that they're the number one team in the West as they've been over the last couple of years. At number 4, I have the Los Angeles Clippers. One of the best depth teams in the NBA. They've got the most $10 million players on a contract in the NBA. Obviously, having the richest owner in sports will do that for you. They're getting Kawhi Leonard back, getting Paul George back. They're loaded. They're a championship contender. They've got 2 top 15, 20 players on their team. They should be one of the very best teams in the conference. But Kawhi's going to rest a little bit. Paul George going to rest a little bit. They're going to do a lot of load management, which will keep them from a top seed, which they probably could get if they tried. I don't expect them to be really trying that hard to the playoffs. At number 3, the Memphis Grizzlies. I think the Jaren Jackson injury is a big problem for them at the start of the season. He was their main rim protecting defender, and he can hit the shot that allows Steven Adams to not be a problem on the offensive end. With him being out, they're going to have to rely more on their depth, which they have plenty of. Xavier Tillman, Kyle Anderson, they got plenty of guys that can play down low at that 4 spot. But I think the defense that you need to help Ja Morant not have to put more of his plate on that side comes from the rim protection of Jaren Jackson Jr. They'll probably go off to a slower start than usual, but you know how good they are with their depth. Those guys are healthy. They're going to be a top 3 seed in the West. Lock it in. Number 2, the Denver Nuggets. It seems like it's finally their time. Jamal Murray's back. Michael Porter Jr. is back. They added KCP. They're adding more. I think they added another depth piece. Bruce Brown. Yeah. So they've got wing defenders, shooters, point forward and point center in Jokic. They've got Jamal Murray back. They've got chemistry. This should be one of the very best teams in the NBA. I still don't love them in a playoff setting just because I don't know if Jamal Murray is ready to be that secondary scorer or Michael Porter Jr. is ready to be that secondary scorer.
You saw Jamal Murray in the bubble?
Coming off the injuries, though. I got to see them recover from the injuries and be able to do that in a high intensity setting in the playoffs. But 2 seed in the West, they should be very, very good and be one of the short list of title favorites. And number 1, obviously, the Golden State Warriors. They're the defending champions. They've got all the depth. I don't think the Draymond situation is going to hold them back in any way, shape, or form. New guys who just got paid. They're super stacked. They're paying the money to be super stacked. They've got the best chemistry in the NBA. Wiseman is back now, so they don't have to worry about relying on Kevon Looney. They're the best team in the NBA, and they deserve to be at the top spot.
Okay, so we got the same set of characters, just all in a little bit of most in the same range, a couple out of order. So I'm gonna get going. My 6. At 6, I have the Clippers. I think they're a great team. I think they're built for the playoffs, like Moody said. I think Kawhi will be load managing, and the only way I can see them being a top 3 seed is if we get like an MVP caliber season for Paul George. Do I think Paul George at this age is going to give us super duper MVP season when he's actually been just as hurt as Kawhi Leonard these last couple of years? No, he'll probably be load managing himself, and I think they'll be waiting to get to the playoffs. Luke Kennard's actually showed some stuff, and they do have good depth and backups. Terrence Mann, maybe another year of development for him, but they also lost their Morris twin, so it'll be interesting to see how they replace him. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how they replace him. I just don't like the stability of the players playing, and that's also why I have Golden State at 5. I think they're also a championship caliber team. I think this West has younger, hungrier teams that are going to be going all out. Just because Golden State finishes 5 doesn't mean I think they're the 5th best team in the West. I just think they're going to manage their team like the 5th best. And then, unfortunately for them, there'll be teams mismanaging their teams, leading Golden State to be 5 and probably have a better season. I think they've always learned from their 73-9 year about going too hard in the regular season. We know it's a marathon, not a sprint. So I think Golden State sells for 5 just because these teams in front of him are younger and more hungrier. At 4, I've got Phoenix. I just think Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul going into the role as the 3rd best player, hopefully, now that Ayton's paid, and Cam Johnson chasing the contract along with Mikal Bridges, who's been paid. I just think this team's too young, too much chemistry, and the only way I could say they don't make it to be the team that they could be is, let's say, that Luka broke them. Luka literally broke them and broke the franchise. They've got some turmoil going around, but I think the players are good enough around there to keep them afloat. They got enough young players that are in their prime that are top 25 players. They might have the most top 30 players in the NBA if you did a list. So they have a lot of good players at high-end talent will come win over. At number 3, I've got the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think they're going to be in the chase for the top seed with the two teams I have in front of them. I love the Rudy Gobert move for the regular season because it's going to be hard for teams to have. They're not on most nights. You're not going to have teams that could deal with the size and rim protection of Rudy Gobert, along with the size, athleticism, and scoring ability of Karl-Anthony Towns at the four. I think we all know he's always wanted to be a four. I think this is a perfect regular season move. And the only thing left to do is see if the coaching translates in the playoffs when you probably have to mix and match, and also allows for resting. Now you have Rudy Gobert. You have two top three centers. Or top four centers. So yeah, they're probably the same. So you have two top four centers, half the best centers in the league, play on your roster. And they also have Vanderbilt, who's a nice little 3-4 guy. They've got Ant Edwards, who I think you could possibly see him make a step to MVP caliber. So if you're getting MVP, Ant, who I'm assuming will be the best player on this team by the end of the team, which is saying a lot. I think this Minnesota team is going to be going places. The only question is, what do they do with the inefficient, probably not ready to be moved out of the way, D'Angelo Russell, and often injured. Hopefully they could trade him for a defensive piece, but you never know. Oh, is that Franz Wagner?
Yeah, it's Franz Wagner. I'm mad as hell.
Off the board. He was the only player in the damn queue. Okay, but yeah, I got many. I like their youth, and I think if you look at their roster, they definitely have three top 50 players, and that's really good when you're looking at possibly top 40. Maybe 4 top 40. At number 2, I've got Memphis. We know they're young, they're hungry. I believe in their depth. I believe in their depth and their coaching. Yeah, this year we're gonna get to see them how good they are without Jaren Jackson Jr. Last year was how good are they without Ja. This year's how good can they? They've recently given Brandon Clark a bag to play in the Triple J role until he gets back. Literally, the depth on this team is insane. They got to keep Tyus Jones, which I think is one of the best signings. The Yankees just got postponed. I think they really needed that. Maybe now they can actually use a healthy Garrett Cole. But yeah, they've got some great size, some great depth. Keeping Tyus Jones, wow, he might be the best backup point guard. He's a Fred VanVleet level point guard before people knew who Fred VanVleet was. Tyus Jones can easily be an all-star in a weaker conference, and if he had more shine. And number 1, I got Denver. I might spoil alert. I think they have the most valuable player in the NBA, and this year he might get some damn help. If they could get 70 games out of MPJ, because he's a young player. So if you're never going to get 70 games out of him, he's not worth anything. So they need to get 70 games out of MPJ. They need to get 65 good games that look like they're going the right way for Jamal Murray, and I think they'll be fine. The addition of Bruce Brown, who's one of the best cutters in basketball to go along with Jokic, is a match made in heaven. I think this is the year Denver gets together, and if there aren't massive injuries, it's time to look at the head coach, who's probably been coaching an elite player. But yeah, that's how I'll go with it. So my final top 6 teams that are in the playoffs are Denver at 1, Memphis 2, Minnesota at 3, Phoenix at 4, Golden State at 5, Clippers at 6. Even though I think the Golden State Warriors and LAC are probably better playoff teams than Phoenix and Mini.